yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Set Your Yo, a.k.a. Coach Bird, and I'm the host of the BYRDCAGE Show. Presentation? We are back in the building. Episode 53. Episode 53. We were just celebrating episode 50, you know what I'm saying? And now we're knocking out episode 53 already, you know what I'm saying? Today, we got a special guest in the cage. We know this young man's father. You know what I'm saying?
And the mother.
And the mother, you know what I'm saying?
And it just so happened that we didn't think we knew him. Like, I didn't think we knew him.
Right.
And, then I figured out, as most things work in our area, his mom and dad. You kind of remember when he was born. You just know things about him that he don't know that you know about him. And not to cut Seth off, it was my idea to bring this young man on today because with May being Mental Health Awareness Month, he wrote a book. And in reading the book, I realized that in our community, we have normalized mental trauma, post-traumatic stress disorder in such a fashion that we just never recognize it, talk about it, or even acknowledge it. Some of the things that our young people and our adults go through, we have normalized to the point where it's okay and we just move on. So, I know Seth usually does the introduction, but I'm going to do it today since it was my idea to bring him on.
It's all good. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're a team. All right? Sometimes I shoot that thing. Sometimes I
So today we have on Isaiah Green, who wrote a book called Through My Eyes. And it was about the traumatic incident that transpired almost 3 years ago on November 19th, 2019, when Camden High football team played Pleasantville High School in a game that ended in disaster. So we're going to take a time and let Isaiah introduce himself, tell you who he is, where he's from, what schools, and then we're going to dive right into what I read and why I felt was important for me to share what I read and to let him talk about why he wrote what happened that evening. So Isaiah, you got the floor. Who are you? Where you
yeah, let them know. For those that don't know, let them know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my name is Isaiah Green. I'm a South Jersey native. I live in Glassboro, but all my roots are in Camden. Ms.
As
Tracy,
we know.
Yeah, it's my first time meeting you, Ms. Tracy. But growing up, Coach Bird, I was a really big supporter of yours. I always loved basketball, but my grandpa in 2012, he took me to my first Camden basketball game when I was in 4th or 5th grade.
Okay.
It was your state finals, semifinals against Neptune.
Okay.
And that game, that made me I just instantly fell in love with Camden basketball.
That's what's up.
My favorite player wasn't LeBron. It was Tavares. I loved Camden basketball and the next year I went to all the games, went to the state finals.
Okay.
So I was always a big supporter of yours. I followed you when you and Coach Hutton were at Pennsauken
football. That's right. Because he comes from Paul 6.
And that's where I graduated from, class of 2020. So, yeah, I'm from Glassboro, New Jersey. I graduated from Paul 6 in 2020. That's in Haddon Township, New Jersey. I go to Solid Rock Baptist Church in Berlin. Right now, I'm at 2 schools. I go to Rowan University. I'm studying criminal justice, hoping to graduate by 2024.
Okay.
And I'm also at Grace Bible Institute in Voorhees, New Jersey. I'm getting my certification in ministry, hopefully by 2024 as well. So it's a blessing to be here. Thank you guys for having me today.
We appreciate you sliding through.
Thank you for being on. A young man of God. I love it. Listen, and just on the God note, I went to a woman's paint party. And you may not know, I was a police officer for over 20 years. So this year, if I had stayed on the department, this year would have marked my 30th year as a police officer. And a police officer was at the event. It was a woman's event. He said what he had to say. Camden County Metro Officer, Officer Hayward, shout out to Officer Hayward, because I actually called this commanding officer. In 30 years I've been involved in law enforcement. It was the first time I ever had a police officer in the spirit of God just break out in prayer. And he prayed over these women yesterday. And the prayer that he bestowed upon us and the way it felt, it was amazing for me. So I called this commander. After he was done, I called this commander and said, listen, I've been doing this law enforcement thing for a long time, and I've never had anybody cover people the way this young man did. So just to have you on here knowing that you walk with God is like an amazing feat.
Definitely.
And, thank you for taking the time out to come here with us.
Absolutely.
And we'll be praying for you. Many blessings to you. But he already got you covered, so this thing ain't about nothing. Right?
Amen.
Now, just before we dive into the book, just one question. I read your book this morning. You know what I'm saying? Great book. I suggest everybody go out and get it, and he'll say where you can get it from and purchase it from and all that. But it was definitely a great read, and you made some great points. You know what I'm saying? That, like, to me is just mature beyond your age right now. You know what I'm saying? But you was right on there, and some things that I need to take a look at. You know what I'm saying? But in the book, you said your dream jobs would be ESPN broadcaster, dealing with communication and stuff like that, and also a lawyer. So I see you're going that criminal justice route. Are you still involved in communications like film, camera? I know you did the play-by-play. You said things like that. Do you still want to do that, or that's just kind of the back burner now?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's interesting because actually, so I am still a criminal justice major, but at the time when I was writing about that book, that was kind of what I wanted to do.
Okay.
But I kind of still have that same mindset, but it's in a different field.
Okay.
I kind of feel like when I was talking about that, I really wanted to be a lawyer because I really got I got a burden for inner city kids and inner city people because my whole family's from Camden, and just like I've always just felt that sense of wanting to help people, whether it's being a civil rights attorney or
Gotcha.
Being a legal defendant. But I think back then I was thinking of it as more of the financial aspect of it, and not as much as the impact of it.
Gotcha.
So now I feel like where I'm at is I still want to study the system, but I don't necessarily I want my impact in communities, wherever to be more of towards a ministry thing.
Gotcha.
I don't think I'm not a believer that there can be a change in culture where Christ isn't present. I kind of feel like in a lot of our, and not just inner cities, because this happens I went to Paul 6, and a whole lot of stuff that happened there was happening in the city.
Gotcha.
It's just like we try to throw money at problems, or we try to just build new buildings, or we just try to have temporary things, and they work for a little bit, but permanent changes, I'm not a believer that where Christ is absent, that's the lasting. I'm not a believer in that.
Gotcha. The book. I don't know if you want to go back and explain. I know Cousin explained it a little bit, but from your perspective, what happened on that day, and then we can talk about why the book after that.
Right. That day, November 19th, 2019, that was Camden versus Pleasantville, semifinals for the Group 2 state championship. Winner goes to Cedar Creek. And it was a really, really good game. I didn't think Pleasantville was as good as they were, but they was only 6-0. They had a really good defense. And it was 6-0 at halftime. Then they come out in the third quarter. They played, I'm not sure how many minutes left. I wrote it in the book. I just can't remember right now. But Pleasantville's punting to Camden. And then just out of nowhere, you just hear just a whole bunch of pops going off. And so everybody's trying to figure out where they're coming from. And then so you can hear them now. They're coming from the Pleasantville side. So it's just instantly, it's just chaos. Yeah. I remember the first thing that I did was once I understood what was going on, I ran to the exit. And there was somebody in front of me. There was I guess it was a lady, and I think her father or her grandfather, and she was trying to help him down. And it was everybody was pushing them. And
right.
And there was a part of me that kind of wanted to help them, but I was just in panic mode. So I was just trying to get somewhere where I could get down.
Right.
And so originally I was going to run to the exit, but I came there with my grandpa and one of his friends, and they were on a different side of the stands, and they wanted to stand on along the fences. I was up in the bleachers, and so I just as I was running towards the exit, I just heard Coach Savage. He just yelled, "Everybody get down!" And I just dropped to my stomach, and I had crawled over to under the bleachers until everything was clear. The police, let everyone kind of get back up and go to their cars.
Right. Wow.
I read in a book where you stated that, and to be frank, as a first responder, self-preservation is what tends to kick in. Those that, and I hate to say it, but those of us that have the warrior mentality, which they call a lot of people that get into first responder jobs, they say that subconsciously we have a warrior mentality where you want to go to the fire versus running away from it. But self-preservation is one of the first things that happens when you hear that, because you want to protect yourself, right? But then you start to kick in, and I know you notice in the book you stated, you know, you were lifeguard and you first respond, certified in CPR, and you always thought that in that moment, and no disrespect, I call it the oh shit moment, because I've had those moments numerous times throughout my career. When the oh shit moment happens, you want to think that you're going to react a different way. And I know I read in the book that you thought you were going to have that reaction until the moment happened. And in that moment, to be honest, what did you really feel in that moment?
Yeah, so like you say, like I was lifeguard and stuff, and I was used to like I had to go save somebody in the pool, but I feel like it's different because with lifeguarding you have to get trained, and they say this is what happens when this happens. Right. This is what happens when a person goes under the water and is unconscious. This is what happens when a person, you know, they're having a stroke and they can't smile on one side of their face. But like, I don't feel like there's necessarily when a gun starts going off that you really can say that we're going to put a plan in place. Right. And I feel like that kind of goes back with a lot of stuff that happened in like the more private schools in the suburb areas. Like we struggled a lot with like mass shootings and school shootings and bomb scares. I can remember when I was in like 5th grade, even when I was in kindergarten, like that was just like doing lockdown drills. That was like that was just what we did. Like we had to, I think the state mandate was like you had to do at least 3 a month.
Yeah, that's what it still is. It's still like you got to do like 1 or 2 a week or something like that.
The thing is, we would have these talks like, well, what are we going to do if somebody comes in here, and then they would tell us, well, we're going to throw stuff at them, we're going to do stuff. But it's like, are we really going to do that? You know? Right. And it just got crazier because the perspective out there is that the private schools and they're the safest. But if you look statistically, those are where all the school shootings were happening. I remember when I was a sophomore, 2018, Parkland, that was one of the 50 safest schools in the state of Florida. And so I'm like, Paul Six, though I went to, that was voted as a safe school. So I'm saying, what are you placing your votes on as far as safety? Because we don't have, there's not metal detectors in the school, you know? Right. So, yeah, that's how I thought about that. But back to your question, in the moment, I just was like terrified. Like I honestly felt like there was a possibility that I could die that night, because, you know, even though the shots, you could hear them over there, you know, if there's multiple people shooting, you know.
But a bullet doesn't have anybody's name on it. And it was evident in that night, in that moment, because of the baby. Yeah. Right? You know, in that night, in that moment, and Micah. Right. And I'm not going to not say his name, because we need to remember Micah, what happened that night. And a bullet has nobody's name on it. We try to explain that all the time when we used to go out and talk to young people about New Year's Eve and those type of things. When you're firing guns in the air, a bullet travels till it lodges into something. Right. Yeah. And, you know, the theory goes, what goes up must come down. You know what I mean? And it's just that you're right. In that moment, how do you really respond? Because a bullet really doesn't have nobody's name on it. And you could try to prepare for it, but again, there's no preparation for the split second on the fly, and you didn't expect this. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. And my first thought when I read your book was, she's now 11. So at the time of the incident, she would have been 9, 8, 9. I take my grandbaby to every Camden High football game. And we didn't go that night because, number one, I know Pleasantville well. It's a long ride, and it was cold.
Freezing.
And it was freezing. Yup. And I said, you know what? We'll forego this game because it's too cold and she's a baby. You know, and although I don't miss many Camden High games, especially during football season. Right. I don't miss many games. That night I was like, but God. Right. But God. And you know, but I have a friend who I've worked with elbow to elbow in crisis situations for 9, 10 years straight, was on Pleasantville's side. And he was like, I couldn't see or feel where the shots was coming from. But in my head I knew, and I'm trying to be safe, but I'm trying to help.
Right.
And he flashed. It flashed for him, and this is all we've ever done.
Right. Yeah.
Since we were 22, 3 years old, was this, respond to these type of events.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I can only imagine as kids, and that's what I said, as a community, we don't deal with the trauma.
Mm-hmm.
We had one trauma session after that incident, and what they did was they had the trauma session with the whole school, and the whole school wasn't affected.
Right.
The football team, the cheerleaders, and the band that was there, and the people that was there that night was affected. But they addressed the whole school. That was their way of resolving, but they never individually spoke to them players.
Right.
And one of the players, I believe that year, was a senior. And to my understanding, he never really got his life back on track. And nobody followed him through. And if I'm not mistaken, he was the young man that huddled over the little girl. He was a football player, huddled over the little girl because the year before she watched her brother get shot on their porch or something to that effect. But nobody in our community addressed that individualized trauma. The young people like yourself that was at the game, individualized trauma. And for you, God is your safety net.
Right.
But not all of our kids in your age bracket know the Lord like that.
Mm-hmm. True.
They don't get comfort and solace in the Lord.
Mm-hmm. True.
They're just told, you're going to be okay. It was a one-time incident, an isolated incident, going about your business.
Right. Right.
So for me to read your book and to know that you're a young man of Christ, a young man that walks with God, and your take on it, I thought it was important for you to be on the show, so you can really discuss. It was traumatic.
Right. Right. How old were you when this happened?
When that happened, I was 17.
17.
Yeah.
17.
I was my senior year. Yeah, my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
But just to add on to your point, I kind of feel like what you were talking about, where we kind of just pushed past it. I feel like it just back to what we were talking about with God. I feel like in not just in this city, but in just America in general, we've placed sports and championships such on the totem pole of importance, and like it's become an idol, and like we've just it's idolatry. Like I love Camden High School. You know, my grandpa graduated from there. I've been supporting them forever, but my thing is like I'm not a believer in, the championship thing is the end all be all.
Right.
Because if that's good and that's great, everybody's winning championships. But I'll just go on record. How many people in South Jersey can say they put as many kids through college that Coach Savage did?
Woo, baby. Isaiah, talk about it.
And another thing is just like, look how long, Coach Bird, it took the basketball team to win a state championship when they let you go.
Right, right.
It took them 9. I've read some articles.
Right.
I probably don't know everything about that situation, but everything isn't as, you know what I mean?
Right,
it took
right,
them
right.
9 years,
Right.
3 different coaches.
Right.
They probably could have had 9 state championships, in my opinion, because I got to a point where I loved Camden basketball more than my grandpa did. I did. I knew everybody's name, like, that just was. But I just feel like we placed our importance so much on if we don't win the championship, it wasn't a good season.
Right, right.
And that's not.
So I talk about that often here, and I think a lot of times the reason why a lot of people push Bird to make me his co-host is because I say that we're such an athletically charged community that we forget about the importance of the child within.
Yeah.
You understand? We forget about what the sports are really about. It's about life lessons and learning things and about getting the education. We put athletics so far in front of everything else in our community. Other kids don't matter that are not involved in sports. And I say this every week. If you go back to our old podcast, I say this every week. That's why I know God sent you here on this day, so everybody will know it's just not me. Here's this young man that agrees with me that if you look about where the focus is a championship, but we're not focusing on the people involved in champ. And it was a young man that posted a couple weeks ago that you coaches use these kids for 4 years to get a championship, but what happens after that? Do y'all follow them through to the next phase? Are y'all helping them get to the next phase? Are y'all helping them be young men?
And within those 4 years, all the people that are coming out to the games, their basketball season is 3 months.
Right.
Football season is 2.5 months. Where are you? September,
right,
April,
for the
May,
other months.
You know what I mean? Like sports is good and it's great, but but we had to be realistic. A whole lot of people aren't going to college to play sports.
That's true.
There's 800, 900, 1,000 kids at a school. There's 40 on the football team and 12 on the basketball team. So what about everybody else?
Yeah,
and so, like I said, I loved going to the state championship this year, watching both teams win it. I loved seeing Wilson win 3. But I'm saying that's not bringing legitimate change, permanent change to the city. That's a good moment.
Right, oh my God.
Yeah, definitely understand what you're saying.
Out of the mouth of babes.
Like,
that's what they say.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand what you're
great,
saying.
But it's like.
But we got to look at the bigger picture.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a bigger picture than just that right there. You know what I'm saying?
And that's like the. And I don't mean to hold up your time or anything.
Oh, no.
I just think
good.
that's
your
why.
time.
That's what we do.
Like the coaching.
They need to hear this.
Yeah, with the coaching thing, it's just like we want to just flip coaches. Oh, the first year it doesn't work. All right, well he ain't a good coach.
Right.
But you don't see a lot of people. They see the X's and O's, but they don't see what's going on. Like what's going on after games.
Right.
People don't know how to. It's funny because people be in the stands. Oh well. Anybody could take Coach Bird's team. Well, you don't know the first thing about coaching.
And it's not even, and we talk about this all the time, it's not even just about coaching. It's about the backstory. Like, case in point, it was a young man that I became familiar with under Coach Savage's Toology. Come to find out, the kid couldn't come to practice every day because he had to work to pay his grandmom's water bill. And every week his grandmom threatened him where he wasn't going to have a place to stay. So although he wanted to utilize football to get to college because he needed to know he knew he needed to get to college to get out of the living environment that he was in, but he really couldn't put 100% into football because he had to work and try to figure out how to navigate work, football, school, grades, and try to sustain mentally in the environment that he was in. So that's just one of 40 kids that have a similar story.
Right.
You know, and we bring up the young man that you said that you thought was your favorite ball player, Travaris, and for us that know him, multiple children, ended up incarcerated. He had a lot of battles that he was dealing with outside of the court that Bird had to navigate, that other coaches had to navigate. It's a lot of navigation on top of the X and O's. You know what I mean? With a lot of kids who have emotional, lack of family support, too much family support where the families are getting involved with thinking that they know what's going on the court. Like it's just a lot to deal with when you coach, right? And it's a lot to deal with kids because a lot of our children come from not the most stellar home environments.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's not just Camden.
No,
suburbs too.
That's where I'm at now.
Right.
Out there
Pissocken, Winslow. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not just a Camden thing. It's a generational thing that at this point, some of the home lives are not as the stellar idea of what you want kids to be raised in. And then you got to coach them.
Right.
So when you're coaching, you got to coach, be a parent, be a mentor, be a cook, be a chef, be a pastor, be a counselor, a therapist. You got to be you know what I mean? And you got to know the X and O's, right? So.
Because like the episode I did on Antoine's show, and we were kind of talking about the inner city athlete versus the suburban athlete. And one of the things we talked about was inner city kids have problems, suburban kids have problems. They might be a different set, but it's still problems. Because when me and Antoine, when we went out to West Tech, I ain't know nothing about West Tech. You know what I'm saying? And now we're out there coaching. And then we're realizing, like, all right, well, they wasn't doing that, but this obviously is a problem with what they're going through now. They got nice homes, yards, you know what I'm saying, 2 parents there. So you're thinking, nah, everything's cool, man. Stop being spoiled, stop it. But when you dig deeper and you really get to know them and you ask questions, like, we have some issues that we need to handle. You know what I'm saying?
So we talk a lot on here about mental health and, mental health awareness, mental health challenges and all those things. In writing the book, did that help your state, your mental state, as it pertained to the incident?
Right, and I like that you brought both. That you brought two points. First with the mental health thing, I think going through that made me take life more serious. I stopped thinking like, I just have time to just figure things out, and maybe later, because.
One of the good points that I like
because
that you brought up.
Because at 10 years old, Micah was 10 years old, and that later
never happened.
Never happened.
Right.
That's like, but you have to look at things like that and say that's anybody. I mean, you look at and see what's going on in New York City right now, and Jacksonville,
and Buffalo,
and just people, and these aren't people that are going outside with guns looking for
right,
people.
right,
These are people just coming, going home, leaving and not coming home. You know, and not just with gun violence, with kidnappings.
Everything.
You know, so I think that part of it made me take things a little bit more seriously and be more mature about stuff and be realistic.
Your aspect in the book is beyond mature.
Yeah, because how old are you now?
I'm 20 now. I just turned 20 a couple months ago.
Okay. Yeah. It's beyond mature because you wrote this book when? How old?
I was. How old was I? It was during the pandemic. I was 18.
Okay, so he was 18-year-old perspective on this book, but in the book he states like later, you don't always have time. Later could never happen, right? And it's crazy because we're in our 50s, and I talked about that often because I suffered a lot of death in my family, and in one of the incidents, I argued with my sister, and 2 days later she was dead. So later never happened. The day that you can get the repair, that never happened. So I say now that if I'm feeling some way about someone, or if they cross my mind, I'm calling them.
Right.
And I get angry, and I posted last week on Facebook or 2 weeks ago, that when I call people and they don't answer the phone, it bothers me. And because I answer for everybody, because I know later may not happen. Right. And if you don't answer the phone in that moment, what if they really needed you? What if they was going through something? And for me, I lost my son by suicide. And he tweeted his moment that he blew his brains away, and everybody retweeted it. No one picked up the phone to call him. So to me, later never happens.
Right.
So I forgive, I let go, but I do reach out. And sometimes I don't always follow through, but I always take that step to reach out to people, because later may not never happen. And yeah, you may have hurt my feelings or made me feel some type of way, but I'm going to forgive you, and I'm going to still reach out, because you know what? I had a friend that just passed away, and we didn't speak for 4 months because I thought we'll fix this later. And guess what? Later never happened.
Yeah.
So now you're questioning, what should I do? And now, mind you, we're in our 50s. You're 18, 19, now 20, understanding something
that.
it took us forever to understand. Later really just you may not have tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow is really not promised. Yeah. And if God grants you grace and mercy for tomorrow, it's so you can be better today than you were yesterday, because it just may not come.
Yeah. Right. And first of all, I'm sorry for your loss of your son. That just made me remind me of someone earlier this week when we were talking about the suburban issues. There was this girl. She was on a full scholarship for cheerleading at a well-known HBCU, and she tweeted out, and that just burdened me all week. I don't remember her name, but she tweeted out before she took her own life. She tweeted out what she was going through, and she said, I feel like I've lost my relationship with God, and Satan has won this battle, and I'm okay with that. And that just burdens me, because I'm like, man, and I just think about it, and I'm like, I will put everything and more on the fact that you could go into a public school, a Catholic school, a charter school, and you could go in there and ask every single student, if you die right now, do you know where you're going? And I will put everything I own on it, that a majority of them would say, I don't know. And that's the real bigger picture. Right. Because when you take that last breath, it's only two places you can go. It's not, it's not a do-over, it's not a second chance. And I feel like, to the point where you were saying that, it takes people a longer time to figure it out, is because that the church has become just an activity and not the pulse and the heartbeat of the culture. Where before that used to be, where now it's just like, if you want to, you can. It's not seen as essential anymore. And this is why we have so many, like my lab partner, when I was I was a sophomore, she was a freshman. A year later, her brother took her life. We're at a Catholic school, so a whole lot of people think, oh well, this, but it's like, it's a whole lot of stuff going on over there. A whole lot of people committing suicide. A whole lot of people was
drug addicts,
battling nicotine addictions and alcohol addictions and stuff, and dealing with like abuse at home. And it's just like they're battling. They might not be dealing with it in the same way. Right. But their way of it is, I can't get through this. I'm gonna take my life. In the what I've seen from it. Right. And I just feel like. And even in the Catholic school, I could go to a whole lot of them and say, if you die right now, where are you going? And a whole lot of them, be honest with you, they just say, I'm going to hell. And they'll just be okay with it and walk away with it. And I just and that just does something to me, because these are like people that I grow up with and I've known forever. And it's just like, how long is we're gonna just continue to let this go on forever? And
right, without
the church is gonna just continue to not say anything.
Not address
well,
it.
and I know this is a touchy topic, but I'm gonna say this. Within our city, there's 1 million churches and 1 million liquor stores, right? And within those churches, a lot of people that are involved in those churches in our community are not from our community.
Right.
So they come and worship on Sunday, they leave and go out.
Yeah.
They don't spread the word within our community. Our kids don't know. And then with the separation of church and state, of course, you can't talk about it in school.
Yeah.
And they laugh and joke at me all the time and my principal's going to laugh when she see this episode, because things happen and they'll tell you, first I be like, look at God. And they laugh because I say it all the time in school. We'll be in a meeting, a leadership meeting, and I'll be like, they say, oh, we got such a day off from school. Look at God. Won't he do it? I needed that break. He knew I needed that break. So they joke all the time, like, yo, Tracy's words, look at God. But my thing is, I always try to give a moment.
Yeah.
Because I know who I was, where I've been, and I know where I'm going.
Right.
You know what I mean? But the church in our community, and I'm just speaking on Camden, it's 1 million of them.
I agree.
But after Sunday, where they be?
Yeah.
You don't see them.
I agree.
Unless maybe they do a food pantry, and
Right,
after they do the food pantry, once you do the drive-through, you don't see them.
Yeah.
Right.
And
We got pastors of churches in Camden that live in Philadelphia. Why?
right. Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and the church, as in our generation, it's our generation because we're raising you guys. So it's our generation that's seen the breakdown and the demonic spirits that entered the church. So a lot of us started to push away.
Yeah.
And not that we don't know God and don't have a relationship, we don't fellowship in the church because the fellowship in the church became broken.
Yeah.
Right? And then now, somebody like me, I try to go back in the church. It's a bunch of elders in there that's looking at me crazy, and now I got to battle them to let them know that God don't like you no different than he loved me.
Yeah.
Whether I'm tattooed up, whether I got on jeans and sneaks, whether I got on jogging suit, God don't love you no different than he loved me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm here to do the work of the Lord. And the work of the Lord always ain't about a dollar bill.
Mm-hmm.
It's about putting in that work. Seeing that kid that's distressed, going to his house, showing up, being there, popping up at his game. That's the work of the Lord too.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I may not be a Bible toter, and I can't give you one passage other than Psalms 23, because that was my dad's favorite. But what I do know is I put in that work every day because I know I'm God-fearing, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where the breakdown happens, because our people have been disconnected because our community's disconnected.
Right.
Culturally, we're disconnected.
Yeah. I think that was really good. I think that Jesus has said in John 10, I believe, he said that I am the bread of life, and he that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. And the reason why I feel like there's a disconnect and we have the suicide rate is so high is that look how many people are hungering and thirsting for things that are outside of him. Sports,
Material clothes,
alcohol, money, materialistic things. And the thing is, it doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter how many championships you're always going to want to know. We won this the 12th one. We put that one down on the 13th. We don't care that
13.
We don't care that it just took us 20 years to win the 12th one. We're worried about next year. And so it's just like that's with anything outside of him. It's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough money, enough clothes, enough houses. You're always going to hunger and thirst for stuff. And so people get to that point, like this girl that took her own life. People think, oh, well, she had it all made. And it's just like you get to those points. But it's like if that was the end-all, be-all, why do doctors and lawyers commit suicide? Because that's not the end-all, be-all.
Right.
And people can tell you, I've been dead broke and I've been filthy rich. But neither of them, I was never satisfied in either, because you're chasing something that'll never satisfy you.
Right. I know another point that I liked that I struggle with at times, and I definitely need to do a better job. You were saying how forgiveness like helped you get through this, like just being able to, where you said you were disappointed, that turned into anger at the guy that did it, you know what I'm saying? But then you got to a point where you said in the book that you had to forgive, you know what I'm saying? Like you couldn't have that hatred in your heart and be leading the life that God was calling you to lead. And I think that was real big, because I have probably, like, I don't know, I'm petty sometimes. And I know it's not right. I know it's wrong.
We all are. We all been caught in that.
I needed to read that this morning. I'm glad you wrote it, and I'm glad I was able to read it this morning, because, like I said, you got some points that touched home a little bit that I need to do better with.
And it's crazy because, like, for me, my cousin knows well about some things. and I still talk to different people. And they're like, how do you do that? And I was like, forgiveness wasn't about him. It was about me. It freed me because now he don't control me. You know what I mean? And I know forgiveness is something that's a God sent. Like I'm able to forgive. And I forgive because it frees me.
Yeah.
And when I forgive you, it ain't about you.
Right.
Yeah.
The forgiveness is about me.
Yeah. Right.
Because now you don't control me. You have no power over me. The only person that should have power over my emotions is me and God. I shouldn't allow people to have power over me. So to forgive you, that relieves all of that.
Yeah.
And listen, now I've been telling them that this for like the last 6-7 years. They're like, yo, what? What? I'm like, listen, I'm telling you, forgiveness ain't about nobody but me. I got to forgive these people. I got to let it go because I did walk around angry for a long time.
Yeah.
And the why me.
Yeah.
Why I'm going through this. But then I realized through all I went through, this year marks the 10-year anniversary of the passing of my son. And just to see where we are as a family, it was only through us believing in God and letting God take the wheel.
Yeah.
I had to literally let go and let him take the wheel. And whenever it took me, that's where it took me. And we're doing just fine. But it was a whole transformation and just understanding. And again, I can't give you one verse. I know I read the Bible at night. I do. But some things stick, some things don't. But I know what my work I put in, like my actions. My actions speak because they say words without works is dead, right? So my work speaks for itself. You know that I'm a woman of faith because of the work that I put in.
I think the forgiveness part is we have to forgive because he forgives us.
For
like
everything.
so many, it's just like so many just not even with self, just like every day of just messing up and having a bad attitude or just not saying that, the words that you should have said to somebody. You have to, my pastor was talking about that this morning, somebody cut him off and that originally, and then, this had some words from him that, it made him upset. But he was saying, you have to love people because you were first loved. It's not necessarily about, oh, why me? But it's just like, think about every day the things that you do wrong. Because sometimes, a lot of times in churches, we think too highly of ourselves. We think, oh, now because I'm saved, I have a right to just, judge everybody else's stuff. And, we can't be as a church where we're talking about the power of God and having all these tears come down our eyes and doing all this and that, but we just can't forgive people because that was one of the last things that Jesus said. He said, forgive them because they don't know what they do. So we have to forgive because he first forgave us and love because he first loved us. It's more so, like you say, an us thing, but it's mainly what he did for us.
Right.
So you appear to be intact. But I know this was traumatic. But how's your mental health? How is things for you emotionally? Because at the end of the day, this was traumatic.
Yeah.
And it's something that probably replays in your head. When you hear a backfiring of a car, it probably replays in your head. So how are you overall?
Yeah, I'm a lot better. Like the first couple of days, I just was really like, the first night I didn't really sleep well. And then like the next couple of days, I was just worrying about Micah in the hospital and, really upset. And I was walking home from school. Just got off the bus and hearing that he didn't survive, so that was just really, really hard and having to go through that whole thing. But by the grace of God and just doing a lot of prayer and putting things into His hands and I've been a lot better.
That's good. That's good to hear. So what are your future plans?
Now, before you even ask that, because I just read the book, I know you mentioned to not be so concerned about the future and more concerned about what's going on now.
Right.
But what you got going on in your future plans?
Like I said, I want to definitely get my degree in criminal justice and finish up my certification in ministry.
Okay.
I want to be a full-time evangelist because I just focusing in on the inner cities in America because I think a lot of times and especially in our politicians, we want to go help every other country and try to figure out their problems, but we just have so many problems in this country. So many people are walking in darkness, and like I just want to reintroduce like a lot of teens and even just adults, like just reintroduce them and just talk to them about God and just not have them have false perspectives on Him and just really because it's just so many people. Like I say, the church is supposed to be the heartbeat of the culture, but I feel like right now the heartbeat of the culture is rap and it's like hip hop and it's all this demonic stuff. And I was doing a study on some stuff that's going on in Jacksonville, and it's just like we're paying these young men millions of dollars to throw disses and shots at rival gang members about people they've killed.
Right.
And nobody seems to think that that's like there's not an issue with that. Right? So I kind of want to be heavily involved in inner cities and in the prison system.
Okay.
I just want to spread the word of God. That's just really like that's really what I want to do. I do day trade. I do trade in the stock market and foreign exchange market.
Yeah,
so,
I saw that.
Yeah, but I just really that's really my plans, for moving forward.
Right, and I see you accomplishing those
yes,
goals.
Absolutely.
Because you got something stirred within me today. You know what I'm saying?
Look at God.
And I'm exactly. And we definitely appreciate it. Before we get out of here, any shout outs or anything you want to say to your folk?
Yeah. Shout out, first of all, congrats to both Camden and Wilson for winning the state championships this year. Wilson winning football and then both teams for basketball. Great job to the two of you guys. This podcast is great. I went back and looked at a couple episodes.
I appreciate it.
Keep it going. It's a lot of, I used to have one, but it's not as set up as this. We got a lot of really cool stuff down here, and I'll be praying for this that you guys
we
just are able
appreciate
to continue to, and whatever you do, just don't let people discourage you. And whatever you do, it's a lot of naysayers, but just stick to it. Just continue to do what you're doing and just be encouraged.
I definitely appreciate you, and thank you for sliding through. Also, social media pages. You want to just let people know where they can?
I'm not on social media.
Okay.
I used to be, but I came off there, took a break from it.
Okay.
But as far as the book,
yes, let them know where they can get the book.
You can get it on Amazon. You just type in Through My Eyes and then my first and last name, or you can email me IsaiahGreen824@gmail, and I'll be happy to connect with you and pray with you, or just tell you how you can get the book that way too.
Nice. Now, like
let you go
that's
first.
what I was just going to say. I got to go first on these wrap-ups because we let the guests go, then we let Cousin Tracey go. But by the time she delivers this amazing wrap-up, it's like, how can I follow that? So, to fix that problem, I'm going to wrap up my wrap-ups first. Again, Isaiah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Definitely. This was powerful right here. You know what I'm saying? Just for sharing your story and and your mission and whatnot. Our kids need to hear that. You know what I'm saying? Just a different option. You don't know what your calling is going to be. You know what I'm saying? You might think it's sports, but it might not be. But you got to be able to receive that calling and pay attention and listen and figure that out. So thank you for sliding through. Cousin Tracey, thank you. There's no birdcage without Cousin Tracey. So I definitely want to thank you. I'm sure you're going to tell about it, so I'll let you tell about it, the weekend that we have coming up, you know what I'm saying? And our viewers, just thank you, you know what I'm saying? We appreciate the texts, the DMs, the comments, the critiques, everything. We take it all in, and we appreciate it because that means you're watching and listening. So please, just as you always say, tell a friend to tell a friend, and just stay tuned, and we'll keep pumping these things out. Cousin Tracey, the floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Okay, so first and foremost, I'd like to say Daylight Foundation is having a mental wellness weekend. It starts June 1st, ending with a culmination brunch, a mental health panel brunch on June 5th. So we have activities ranging from a balloon release for anyone who's dealing with mental health challenges or lost a loved one to suicide, a Let's Roll skating party, a family fun night. We're having a mixer. We're having a block party, a mental health fair block party on the 1400 block of Dayton. The flyers will be circulating throughout social media. They'll be circulating here. Everybody feel free to come out. We have a bunch of vendors giving out resources that can help you and your families connect yourself with anybody that may have mental health challenges or just need supports. We'll have all kind of people out there, virtual Cam Care, Freedom Prep School, my organization, Saving Grace, Rising Leaders Global. All other organizations be out there if you need a mentor, if you need resource services, if you need therapeutic services, we should have it all available to you. And if not, we don't have them there, we'll have somebody to connect you to them. That's the Wellness Weekend. Again, that's June 1st to June 5th. That's a Daylight Foundation Incorporated event in culmination with, the Birdcage and a few other people, sponsors, and all my friends that are coming out to help.
And on the 4th, That's Saturday the 4th, right?
Saturday 4th.
We'll be shooting the show
Live
on
from the block party. On location from the block party.
We'll be on location.
As far as our guest today, Isaiah Green, first and foremost, I would like to give credit to my friends, Jai and Ebony. You guys have amazing young men here.
Shout out to both
Your
of
son is amazing.
Yes.
He not only touched me with the book, that's what made me post about the book. He touched me even more so here in person. He's an amazing young man. God has him covered, and I wish him nothing but the best. I say often, I've said numerous times throughout my career, and he said it here today, when you go, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter where you live, and it doesn't matter what car you drove. The only thing will ever matter if you change the life of a child. Just always remember that. He said a lot of things today out of the mouth of babes. Jesus, he covered us with his word today, and I'm thankful for him. And just remember, forgiveness is what God did for us, and we should give it to other people. So on that note,
see, that's why I got it. You see it firsthand. I got to, like, if I had to follow that, what was I supposed to say? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's why I had to go first. But on that note, I'm Sechuayo, a.k.a. Coach Bird, and I'm the host of the BYRDCAGE Show, and we'll talk to you soon.
It was a stone groove, my man.